Right now, the unfolding crisis in the Middle East. 2 embassies attacked, an ambassador left dead. We will have the latest from abroad and reaction here at home. And in an election year, candidates, they are pointing fingers, and it seems ambition for some have got ahead of the facts. And if that's not enough, Israeli-American relations also in the headlines. Many asking if Netanyahu's snub by President Obama was real or just a play for politics to satisfy a base back home. And a question in the aftermath of the tragedy in Libya is, how did an obscure offensive video made in California by a bunch of lunatics become a rallying cry halfway across the globe? We take a look at what maybe ought to be some of the limits of free speech. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday evening, September 12th. Well, tensions, they are high throughout the Middle East today after 2 attacks on U.S. buildings, one in Libya that turned fatal and another in Egypt. Now, the attacks on the U.S. consulate in Libya, they left at least 4 Americans dead overnight, and including in the fallen is the U.S. ambassador. The protests, they appear to be a response to a film made by an anti-Muslim advocate living stateside. A senior U.S. official told ABC News that the situation is, quote, very dangerous and that they are on alert throughout the entire region with fears there could be more to come. President Obama called it an outrageous and shocking attack. 4 Americans dead, including the U.S. ambassador to Libya, Chris Stevens.
Make no mistake. We will work with the Libyan government to bring to justice the killers who attacked our people.
On Tuesday, 20 militants firing automatic weapons and rocket-propelled grenades, they stormed the American consulate in Benghazi in a pre-planned attack. All 4 Americans died from smoke inhalation. No one was shot.
Libyans carried Chris's body to the hospital, and they helped rescue and lead other Americans to safety.
Foreign service officers around the world are on high alert. President Obama ordered increased security at American diplomatic posts due to concerns that the unrest could spread.
Every day, all across the world, American diplomats and civilians work tirelessly to advance the interests and values of our nation. The
president later visited the State Department to show his appreciation and to also reiterate that message. U.S. officials fear that the attack in Libya and a large angry protest at the embassy in Cairo on Tuesday were both triggered by this low-budget anti-Muslim film. It was produced in the U.S. allegedly by an Israeli filmmaker who meant for it to be proactive.
There is absolutely no justification to this type of senseless violence. None.
Now, the president went on to order increased security at American diplomatic posts around the world. U.S. officials very concerned about the unrest now spreading across the Middle East. It should be noted that some in the intelligence community are wondering aloud if, in fact, it was a response, the attacks in Libya, to that film. Others are saying that it was too coordinated and that this could have been not so much spontaneous, but in fact a planned attack to coincide with the anniversaries of September 11th. Nonetheless, 50 Marines, additional security, they're en route. They probably are even on the ground as we speak in Libya. But it should be noted, this took place in the city of Benghazi. For many of you who may remember, that's the same city American troops helped liberate here for the Libyans when they finally got their freedom from Muammar Gaddafi just a few months ago. This is a fluid situation in the Middle East. We mentioned what happened in Cairo. There's concerns it could spread elsewhere, so there's open-ended questions. What we're going to do over the next 60 minutes is analyze this issue from both the news that it is. Then we'll talk about what Governor Mitt Romney had to say, and the situation and the fires didn't even stop burning there when he already made some very inflammatory remarks that have been criticized not just from Main Street media, but also from people within the Republican Party and major conservative talkers to say that he may have put politics here before nation with some of how early his attacks were and also some of the inflammatory language and some of the seemingly unfounded facts. We'll talk about that and how that'll play into an election less than 60 days away. In addition, we'll also talk about Israel because As we all know, Benjamin Netanyahu, he claimed to have been snubbed by the president. Not coincidental, many think, with an upcoming U.S. election here. But there's debate not just here, but also within Israel, if his comments were also founded, let alone appropriate given what's going on. We'll have an expert on the situation that'll discuss that. And then finally, when we discuss the situation in the Middle East, we're going to get into the fact of the role social media played. And social media, not just a platform here, but seemingly maybe even the igniter here to a very tenuous situation made worse by lunatics from the States who created a film, and then the lunatic fringe in the Middle East who took that and turned it into, obviously, the tragedy that we saw happen yesterday. So a lot coming up in the next hour here, and we invite you to not only stay with us, but also participate with us online as well as via Twitter and Facebook. We're going to come back with much more RFL right after this break.